When Lee Jae Myung became South Korean president in June 2025, this was one of his pledges.
북한과의 소통 창구를 열고 대화 협력을 통해 한반도 평화를 구축해 나가겠습니다.
Lee pledged to make amends with Pyongyang, repairing ties with Seoul that were severely degraded in the years before his election. But barely 6 months later, Lee's tone has changed.
언제 우발적인 충돌이 벌어질지 모르는 상황까지 갔습니다. 그리고 남측을 북한은 적대적 두 국가다. 이제는 전체 원수다. 이렇게 얘기하고 있지 않습니까? 일체 모든 연결성이 다 끊겼습니다. 일체 대화 접촉 자체를 거부하고 있습니다. 매우 위험한 상태입니다.
So why has Pyongyang rejected Seoul's overtures? Although they've been officially at war since 1953, relations between the two Koreas fluctuate between periods of hostility and warming ties. Typically, ties have been at their warmest whenever a liberal administration holds the top office in the South under what's called the Sunshine Policy.
A lot is built on the assumptions that, North Korea and South Korea still have mutual goals of unification, and that North Korea is in such a weak state that they would be welcoming of any assistance possible.
The Lee administration has taken an approach to North Korea similar to what was used during the administration of former Liberal President Moon Jae-in, when several steps towards peace were made. But while the Sunshine Policy has had some success in engaging with the North, its ultimate goal of bringing about denuclearization has failed. In 2020, the North blew up the Inter-Korean Liaison Office, symbolizing the end of Pyongyang's willingness to continue engaging in the process. In 2022, conservative leader Yoon Suk-yeol was elected president, ushering in a much more antagonistic attitude towards the North.
Yoon was much more hardline on North Korea, as most of the Korean conservatives and conservative administrations have been. And he was very clear about the priority is denuclearization. And so if denuclearization can happen, then, all of these benefits would come to North Korea, but nothing would happen until then. President Yoon was also very focused on a lot of military posturing, and would really work on this principle. If North Korea did something, South Korea was going to do something reciprocal back to demonstrate that had capabilities as well.
Inter-Korean relations started to degrade in a tit-for-tat escalation. Pyongyang sent thousands of balloons carrying trash to the south. Seoul responded by resuming its tactic of using large speakers to blast propaganda across the demilitarized zone. Seoul also sent drones and propaganda leaflets deep into North Korean territory. Yoon greatly expanded the scope of U.S.-South Korean military drills, which Pyongyang sees as a threat. In 2024, Kim Jong-un declared South Korea a hostile state, adding that Pyongyang would no longer seek peaceful unification. Yoon's impeachment following his moves to impose martial law, followed by Lee's election, led many to believe that better inter-Korean relations were on the way under the new president.
He's not as forward-leaning as what Moon Jae-in was back in 2017, 2018. But he definitely wants to lower the tensions on the Korean peninsula. And so he's taken a lot of unilateral steps to try and do that.
While still maintaining a strong alliance with Washington, the Lee administration has, for example, shut down the propaganda speakers as well as proposed military talks to demarcate the DMZ. But the efforts have fallen on deaf ears in Pyongyang.
What we've seen in North Korea since 2019 is major shifts and fundamental shifts in how North Korea sees peninsular relations. And essentially what they've said is that, South Korea has nothing to offer. And if they're not working towards mutual goals, they've even denied the fact that they're mutual, shared kinship anymore in terms of, the Korean ethnicity. This is not just pick up where we left off under the last liberal administration. This is a whole different game. that the North Koreans are playing on the Korean Peninsula. And so far, there's very little credibility, first of all, to anything that the South Koreans are saying they want to do, like in terms of inter-Korean cooperation projects and things like that. Because of sanctions, the North Koreans know the South Koreans can't do it.
Pyongyang, on the other hand, has successfully improved ties with other countries in response to sanctions on its economy. The North has benefited most from its alliance with Russia. Pyongyang has provided Moscow with weapons, ammunition, and soldiers in exchange for technological and economic assistance.
We don't need South Korea right now. They've had a lot of success in cultivating relations, with Russia, repairing relations with China. They're developing relations, some of the historic relations with countries in Southeast Asia, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia.
An investigation by prosecutors handling Yoon's martial law case has raised hopes that the North could reconsider its stance toward the South. The investigation says that Yoon's administration deliberately tried to provoke a military conflict with Pyongyang to enact military rule. The revelations have led Lee to consider apologizing to the North for the past actions. But few expect an apology to go very far with Pyongyang, especially with all the material assistance the Kim regime has received from its Russian ally.
다시 한번 오십시오.